will be still coming in, but we can hear you just fine.
Inshallah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gave us this ability to connect during these difficult times. Now, these are times that by now we heard quite often that they are unique, that this is the first time that we are experiencing something like this. We haven't, during our lives, been forced globally to stay at home, and obviously our lifestyles changed completely. And there are lots of people who are not used to this kind of being forced indoors, and if they are not prepared to adjust, then they will really be at a loss, a big loss. And I'm not here today in this live stream, in this communication. I'm not here to start drilling ayat from the Quran and a hadith that will basically tell you that it is all about religious experience. It's all something that will make us sit and learn all over again our way of life that we call Al-Islam, even though at the end we will find out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knocking at our doors. But to start with, I'm going to be very practical with all the people listening are able to relate to. We now can fall into one of three categories. And when I say one of three categories, I'm sure that each one of us is going to be able to relate to one of them. You can still be confined to the fear zone, that you are still afraid. And if you want to know whether you are still in this zone that I'm going to call the fear zone, you are still running to superstores, and you're still buying lots of food, you are hoarding food, you are buying things only to discover that they are spoiling, you are unable to use them because they have a time, you are number two, joining in spreading rumors. You are angry all the time, you are complaining frequently, you are forwarding every message that you are receiving on your smartphone, you're always sitting with your phone, or you are adding numbers and you are saying now today it's this. You are basically so afraid, so angry, so irritable. If you can relate to that, then you are really in this zone that is called the fear zone. Now, if you are learning how to adjust to this confinement, to this physical distancing, then you really can identify by being in this zone, because you are starting to give up that which you cannot control. You are not complaining to your friends, to your wife, to your husband, to your children that now I heard it's going to be another month, another 6 weeks. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to lose income. I'm going I'm unable to take it. How could we stay indoors for that long? So you are saying that this is something beyond my control. I'm going to accept it. So you are learning. Now, you are stopping to compulsively consuming that which hurts you. By that I mean, if you find out that listening to the news all the time is hurting you mentally and physically, you turn it off. You don't listen to news all the time. You are learning how to adjust to at home. You're not eating all the time. You are trying to move. You are trying to exercise your body. So you are learning how to live with this new reality. And you are able to control your emotions now. Obviously, if you have teenagers, if you have little children, and you know that it is more difficult for them to be indoors and that they are starting to irritate you, you are trying to control your emotions, then you are in this learning zone. You basically start to evaluate information that you are receiving. You're saying that this could be Photoshop, that this is not something that I'm going to believe right away. This is something I'm going to investigate. This is something that is not right. So you are evaluating and you are recognizing that you are going to make the best out of this imposed indoor stay at home. This is a learning experience. Now, if you have even developed to something more positive, and I call that the growth zone. Remember, we started with the fear zone, the learning zone, and now it's the growth zone. How often did you hear on podcasts, on live streams, on recorded lectures from our scholars, from imams, from experts, from psychiatrists, from therapists telling us that we really need to make the best use of this stay at home. And if you are starting to think of others now, you have a certain talent, you are using this talent, you are even taking the phone and asking about others, you are calming their fears, you are telling them that we used to read about these things in the books of history. Now the Almighty wants us to live history. Others in decades from now, hundreds of years from now, will be relating our stories and they will be reading about us. So we are now forming the elements of this history that's going to be learned forward. If you find that you are able now to do that, then you are really growing. If you will discover that in this unique, new experience, you are finding opportunities, you are slowing down, you are trying to reevaluate things, take a piece of paper and a pen and write down all the things that you never had a chance to really think about with focus. Now is the time. If you are able to do that, if you are able to find solutions for your unique problems, then you are really in the growth zone, which we hope all of us are able to get into as quickly as possible. If you are starting to think about the future after COVID-19, there are still people who say, especially I heard it from people in their 20s who are saying, they are telling us that millions of people are going to die. How would I know that I'm not one of, I say, calm down, slow down. There is always a future, and always you should have faith in the Almighty God. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though I said at the beginning, I'm not going to be quoting ayat from the Quran so that you don't feel that this is another khutbah, another lecture. No, I don't want that to be. But our faith tells us, قُلْ لَن يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا. You have to realize that the Almighty said to us, while you are on this planet, You have to do your very best, but you have to leave the rest to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who's going to decide our future, our fate. We have to really be prepared to grow through difficulty. And remember, if you read of great people, you will find out that their greatness was built on a basis of suffering. They did not all of a sudden just become great because they have the elements of greatness in them. No, we know that difficulties produce people of talent who will use their talents and they will grow with it. You know, we should start to thank and appreciate others. I know, and I've heard, unfortunately, many stories of people who, staying in that fear zone and trying to jump to the learning zone, they couldn't adjust. And I'm hearing so many stories of husbands and wives fighting with each other because they are not used to this confinement and being face to face without venting those negative charges in a way that would produce a healthy relationship. That's why it's okay to say, I need help. You know, I'm not saying that all of us are going to pass through to the growth zone on our own. This is the time when we need to seek help. And if you remember, I did mention in a previous a newsletter, in a previous message, that there are experts in our city. And so that we don't bombard them with phone calls, I said, call me and I will direct you to these experts. And I mean by these experts, they are people who really got the training. You know, I mentioned Dr. Jihad Hamad. I mentioned Sister Dr. Katie Wetted. These are two luminaries who volunteered their time. They said, we are ready to help, to counsel. So don't let your anger overtake you. We need to grow together as families. We need to rediscover each other. So now, to summarize what I said already, that during those 24 days, by the way, yes, I want to remind ourselves that since we started this confinement, which started gradually, and now it is total confinement at home, it's been 24 days since March 11th. And I want to say, before I go any further, that now we are, today is the 12th of Sha'ban. And I just want to feel better myself with everybody who is listening to us, that, during the month of Sha'ban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us so many gifts, preparing us for the month of Ramadan. And I want to share with you, this is an aside. You may say, what does this have to do with COVID-19? And say, everything, okay, can be mentioned in this exchange of ideas and opening our hearts to each other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam three gifts personally to him, to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were given during the month of Sha'ban. And it is relevant now on the 12th of Sha'ban to share these three gifts. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or revealed to him something unique. He said to him in Sha'ban, in the Quran, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. This unique gift to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying that Allah and his angels offer their invocation of peace and blessings to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So believers, you are asked to do the same thing. So before we go any further, I invite all of us to give salawat on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because with those salawat, we feel better. And by joining our love to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the mentioning of subhanahu wa ta'ala, we remember, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. By the mentioning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our hearts find tranquility. So let us together, inshallah, say, اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam during the month of Sha'ban, actually it was 16 months after Hijrah from Mecca to Medina, during the month of Sha'ban, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the gift of al-Masjid al-Haram as the Qibla of the Muslimin. We know that for 16 months Muslims continued to face Bayt al-Maqdis in their salat, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. Look at this. فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ. Wherever you are, turn your faces in salat towards al-Masjid al-Haram. That was a gift during the month of Sha'ban. And you know, the third gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the gift of purification of Ahl al-Bayt. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرُكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allah gave you that quality of purification. 3 gifts in the month of Sha'ban. Why am I mentioning this? Just because, you know, we feel good about that, but, you know, so that we can carry hope with us that during this month, we are about to enter in 18 days the gates of the month of Ramadan. So nothing is impossible, even though now projections and medical data and other things are telling us that it's going to be a long time. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a simple mutation or evolution of this COVID-19 virus, things may come to a halt. It's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by the way, it's not a vaccine or the cure that the people are making. It could be a simple mutation in the genes of the DNA of this COVID-19 or the RNA of this COVID-19 virus that will make it incapable to spread with the speed that it is spreading. So let us have hope. Let us make dua. Dua, inshallah, is going to get us, you know, I'm seeing here a question because I don't want to continue having it a monologue. I would like to take your questions I'm seeing as I'm seeing them on the screen. The month of Ramadan to most of us is a time when we refresh our faith. Absolutely. Please give us some tips on how to maintain the Ramadan spirit we are accustomed to experiencing while we remain in our homes. The thing I want to say, you know, with time, we tend sometimes to get further and further from the spirit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends of a certain ibadah. And please here, I don't want people to get upset with me. I want to be as truthful with you as I'm used to all the time. Now, I want to mention that at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were no elaborate feasts of breaking fast and inviting people and cooking 10 times more than our need, and going to the Masjid al-Nabawi to pray Taraweeh together, and then people will socialize afterwards, and they will, have all kinds of activities, and there was no television. I know I'm not being sarcastic here, but I'm saying that what is happening is that people now, to us, Ramadan became that huge gathering at the masjid where we spend long time afterwards, and then we go together maybe to Tim Hortons, and then we come home and we are tired. Maybe we will get up for Fajr, maybe we won't because we are tired. And this is not what Ramadan wants to instill in us. Please let us not forget that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ prayed Taraweeh only 2 times in his life. And these 2 times were not at the masjid. They were at home. So perhaps now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God knows, maybe He is bringing us back home to practice Ramadan the prophetic way. And the prophetic way is the family unit way, whereby we can come. Imagine now, start planning, whereby you as a family, as a small family, and I'm not saying here extended families, no, because families have to stay where they are. So you come together, the father, the mother, perhaps by the father, the mother, and the children praying together Taraweeh and getting up for Qiyam together and learning Quran together. Maybe if there is a problem within the family, husband, wife, parents, children, maybe that setting that brings the Quran back home, that brings Salatul Jama'ah back home. Try to make a special place. Put the, prayer mats if you want. To try to maybe put a kind of, not a fence, but mark it in a way that it will be recognized as a masjid. Try to make a certain bulletin whereby you will put certain stars for the young children who are fasting for the first time. Recognize, let them make that as an arts and crafts. This is an activity they can enjoy during the month of, because they are at home. Let the parents, let the children join in doing that. And let us this time experience breaking our fast the way that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. Anyway, we really don't want to go out so often to buy food. Let us buy 1 week at a time and cook that which we really need, nothing more than that. Let us do that. And this is what I hope we will be able to do. Now, I invite your questions, please. If you have other questions, I will read them here, inshallah. Now, I was asked a question about zakat. Some people are discovering that there are relatives, whether here in Canada or back home, who are all of a sudden finding themselves with absolutely nothing. The question is, can we give zakat ahead of time? The answer is yes, absolutely yes. Scholars even gave us allowance as per certain jurisprudence fatwa, up to 3 years in advance. You may be able to give zakat. What you do is that you give as much as you can, and then at the end of your fiscal zakat year, you calculate how much it should have been. If you have paid more, then whatever is left over, you can use it the next year. If it is still less, you give more to satisfy the balance of your zakat. But as far as zakatul fitr, the answer is no. Zakatul fitr has to be given between the first day of Ramadan and before Eid. So this is the answer to, inshallah, I will have another live stream, especially about issues related to zakat. I'm reading now from Brother Khalid a question: in the event of a COVID-19 related death in our community, God forbid, how is the Islamic Center and other masajid in the city preparing, or what procedures are in place regarding washing and the burial of the deceased? Here, I would like to bring our attention that we did produce, there is, by the way, a task force from 14 people on this task force from the different Islamic institutions in the city of London. And there are medical doctors, there are lawyers, there are imams, there are community leaders. And together we put a document outlining the protocol that we will follow. I invite you to read it in detail on the newsletter that is sent every week. And actually now it's more than once a week. It is sent with my video messages, with other things. Read it up. But in summary, I want to tell you that because people may be carriers of the virus without any symptoms, God forbid, if they die, we have to assume that they are carriers. So number one, as per the bereavement authority of Ontario, BAO, they are asking us, the Muslim community, to please go back to use the facilities of funeral homes as your number one choice. Before, we had facilities at our center, at our London Muslim Mosque, at other places, but actually these two places are the two facilities. We used to use those facilities at funeral homes because they are equipped to handle people who have infectious diseases. And now there are fatwas almost globally that people who are carriers of the COVID-19, the hospital will put them in a sealed bag, and that they do not need to be washed nor tayammum performed. They are placed in the box, taken to the grave, and according now to the rule, 5 people can go to perform Salatul Janazah at the grave, and they are buried. And you know what? We shouldn't feel bad about that, because they are given the status of a shaheed. So even though in numbers Salatul Janazah is less, but they are considered shaheed. So we should really be happy for them. Now I have to move quicker because there are other questions from my brother Bassam Samak in Toronto. To everyone, inshallah, in Ramadan we will be praying the Taraweeh as Jama'ah from home, alhamdulillah. So we will discover the spirit of the family together. Now from Dr. Jihad Hamid, remember I mentioned Dr. Jihad communicated with me, and he volunteered. He said, I am ready. Anyone experiencing marital problems because of stress, family problems between parents and children, and also Sister Katie Wetted, Dr. Wetted also showed that. Now I'm reading the note from Dr. Jihad Hamid. What is the Islamic fatwa or answer regarding the fasting during the month of Ramadan while people are experiencing COVID-19? We heard some unclear news regarding the fasting and or not fasting that I wonder if you could incite us accordingly. Now, we did hear some news circulating that you cannot have a dry mouth and that you should always wet your mouth regularly. That is true, but I asked Dr. Ahmed Higazi, who is a doctor working on the front lines in the ICU. And here I would like to take an aside, and from this podium, from this live stream, I want to send on all our behalf, everybody listening and even those who are not listening, big thank you and a big dua for those brothers and sisters, the medical doctors, the nurses, the workers who have to go and open the food places to serve us, the people who are collecting our refuse, the garbage from the curb, the people who do the essential jobs on our behalf while we stay healthy at home. I would like to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. So for Dr. Jihad, I want to say that Dr. Higazi did the research and he went to evidence-based studies now to show that until now there's no medical evidence that if you have a dry mouth, that the virus will be more aggressive and will really, you will contract it more. There's no evidence whatsoever. When I heard the news, I thought that this is the case, and I asked the question, and this is what we got. So we have to go by evidence-based. And one thing I want to say that, inshallah, if we hydrate ourselves properly at suhoor time, and at iftar time, and in between, try while we are doing our qiyam, while we are keep hydrating ourselves, that inshallah will be adequate to carry us forward. And I want to remind everybody before I forget that tomorrow is Monday, the 13th of Sha'ban. So I would recommend inshallah that we fast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 13th, 14th, 15th. These are the ayyam al-bid, the white days during every Islamic month. So let us, fast, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. There is from Brother Abdul Rahim, what is the ruling on praying Fard Salat in Jama'ah virtually via Zoom, with family or friends? The answer is that there is one fatwa out of Toronto that is being debated now at the Canadian Council of Imams, but the majority of Imams, and I wrote an article about that I submitted to the Canadian Council of Imams. I feel myself, and I'm supported by lots of other Imams, that virtual jama'ah is not necessary. You can still pray jama'ah, two people only, husband and wife, older son and mother, son and daughter. This is jama'ah. We don't really have to go out of our way to have someone maybe tens of kilometers away from us on television, virtually leading salat while we follow that. This is, it wasn't at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if this is the case, we could have done it now with the Imam of the Haram in Mecca while we pray behind the Imam of the Haram. But we know that there are differences in time. There are, something called tawasul as-sufuf, that the lines have to be connected in order for Jama'ah to be valid. So I would say no, let us pray families at home, no virtual, even Taraweeh, please. Taraweeh is a sunnah. Taraweeh is not fard. So you can still now, as I said, try to bring the benefit of the family, feeling the warmth of rediscovering its importance, its strength. Let the father, well, the father doesn't know how to do it, let the son do it. The father doesn't memorize. You know, there are fatawas where you can really put the Quran, the Mus'haf, on a pedestal and, you know, move the pages and you can look at it, because it is not fard if you want to really go with the Quran during Salat al-Tarawih. So I would say no virtual ibadah, because I'm afraid that with virtual reality evolving so fast, that some people later may come and say, well, we've done it, you know, at a certain time, why can't we do it now? And then they will continue with that kind of, and some people may say, I'm too busy now at home or at work, I'm going to pray Salat al-Jum'ah virtually. This is way too dangerous. The idea behind Jama'ah at the masjid is to bring the people together. You know, now there's danger socially, even with people shopping through Amazon and through other means, that people will stop having the ability to communicate with each other. They don't talk to each other. Now, siblings not talking with each other. Husband and wife are not talking with each other because of this virtual thing. You know, they are communicating through artificial means that we don't want to allow to enter into the realm of worship. There is another question here. Now, we lost a relative last night to a lung disease, non-COVID. The burial is going to be broadcast live since only 10 people are physically allowed to attend. Aside from dua, what else can I do from home for the deceased? Dua. That's it. You know, and even, please, you know, I don't want to change your plans, but there's not even a need to broadcast it live. There's no need for that. You know, I know that it will stimulate sadness and sorrow to a point that we may not be able to stop people who are mourning from losing control over their emotions. I would say there's no need, but if you already plan to do that, you don't even pray janazah, you know, at home or joining virtually. Just make dua. That's all you need to do. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you know, have mercy on the deceased, your relative, and may he dwell him or her in Jannah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. And that question was from brother, dear brother from Toronto, brother Muhammad Qureshi. From brother Samir to everyone, كيف نستطيع أن نساعد أنفسنا من الكورونا فوبيا؟ هناك تهويل وترهيب من هذا الوباء. The question in English means, how can we help ourselves to deal with the fear that we are experiencing, you know, because of this COVID-19? Lots of phobias and lots of, you know, I said in the beginning that we really, number one, I would say, I would repeat what I said because for the sake of people who are joining now, there's no merit once you really got the instructions on how to keep yourself clean. How many times have we heard, wash your hands for 20 seconds? Every child now knows that. If you go to do shopping, have gloves, have a mask, even, you know, masks, you know, some people say, if you keep the distance, you don't need, we got enough. We are bombarded. We are drowning in information. You do not need to really open every link you get on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on email. Don't do that. Don't do that. So number one, don't watch numbers all the time. Don't watch the news all the time. How many now cases in Ontario? Oh my God, it's, you know, jumping now, and I don't know. There's no need for that. Try to use your time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this as a gift to slow us down. We've been living in the fast lane forever. We've been really moving, you know, having 2, 3 jobs. The wife is working, the husband is working. We don't see each other. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is bad. The way you are living is bad, you know, and the, you know, all the things you are doing and what is called the modern lifestyle is bad for you. You know, you cannot go to sleep without this beside you, receiving radiation, emitting radiation, and it is beside your ear, beside your brain. This is bad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us now to slow down, put this thing away from you. Don't use it all the time. Try to rediscover saying something nice to other members of the family. Tell your wife how much you missed her. You know, tell your husband how much you missed, you know, having the family together, having dinner together. You know, try to have a day with a schedule. This is not an extended, lazy holiday. It is not. So I would say, in order to break that chain of fear, do lots of things. Read a book if you love reading. Speak to other members of the family. Do one room at a time, spring cleaning. Get your children to sit with you and learn with them. Something, you know, if you love history, read about history. If you love trivia, you know, let them ask you, ask them. You know, there are members of families that are exchanging certain puzzles. Go ahead, as long as you don't only do that, but you really need to slow down and use your time properly. Can we pay our zakat to help people who lost their jobs due to COVID-19? Now, losing the job is not equivalent or a conclusion that the person is going to become min al-fuqara wal-masakin, that this family is now, after losing the job, is going to be poor or among the destitute. We know that there are 8 categories that are deserving of receiving zakat. But I say, you know, inshallah, look at this, have hope. You know, the entire world is going to altogether be affected economically. Even the wealthy are going to lose. They are, you know, the world, and we heard that so many times, the world is going to change. And that's why we really need to go from fear to learning to growth. As I said at the beginning of this live stream, we need to grow, to use this time as a retreat. You know, big companies, businesses, you know, families, sometimes communities. You know, in my plan at the Islamic Center, inshallah, after we are done with this crisis, inshallah, I have part of my program to take the community on a summer retreat to really think about our future. So now, get your family together into this retreat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, and think about it. What would you like to do? Now, you may want to say, what's plan B? If I end up losing my job, and my job will not be something that others would need or will really buy, the service will not be used, you know, is there something I could do, we could do as a family to keep going? You know, don't forget that there was a Sahabi, I remember him now, Abdurrahman ibn Auf. You know, he lost everything in Mecca, everything. And when he migrated to Medina, you know, within a very short period of time, you know, he rebuilt his fortune again. And I'm not saying here that there will not be people who will be affected, but, you know, if they are affected, please don't always, you know, say that this is the end of the world, I lost it. And I want to send a message. Please tell people who are now saying that, that's it. I'm not going to be able to sustain a lifestyle that I used to, and then they are losing their temper with their wife and don't do that, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the giver. He is the one who sent this as a test for us. And don't ever forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be with us if we are with him. In tansurullaha yansurkum. If you are with Allah, Allah will be with you. Aren't we believers? To claim that we have faith, in good times is very easy. Anyone can do that. Anyone can say, yes, and I have faith in Allah, I am a good person, I, do this, I do that, but real faith is at this time. This is the time when our faith is really detected. So have that hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say, Ya Allah, I'm with you, so I want you to be with me. And when you wake up in the morning, how beautiful it is to say, Bismillah, الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. In the name of Allah, with whose name nothing is going to affect me, whether in heaven or on earth. And I mean affect me in a bad way. And Allah is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. And if you say it from the bottom of your heart, do you really expect that Allah will forsake you? And when you wake up in the morning, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us, if you say, أعوذ بالله من البرص والجنون والجذام وسيء الأسقام. Now, I seek refuge in Allah from leprosy, from losing my mental ability, from the worst of diseases. You are seeking refuge in Allah. So don't be afraid. So the answer to my question is, if your relative is losing the job and really after every attempt will become poor, then the answer, yes, you can give your zakat to such a person. Now, another question could, from the Islamic Center, I think, member of my Shura group, could you please share guidelines on the conditions of praying with Jama'ah at home? Should there be minimum 2 adults or 4 adults? No, Jama'ah is different than Jumu'ah prayer. Jama'ah, meaning congregation, 2 people can pray in congregation. Okay, so if you're 2 only at home, you can pray, congregation every single salah. And, here just an advice, something beautiful, that probably you couldn't do it before. Now you can do it because you have nothing else to do, and that is to pray on time. You hear Adhan al-Fajr, okay, you wake up and you pray on time and you make your wird, which means, the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you read your Quran and you make your dua, and, well, then Dhuhr, you pray Dhuhr on time, you pray Asr, Maghrib, Isha on time, I know it's already Isha time, but because we are engaging in these questions, I would like to finish as many as possible. So let us pray on time. Inna as-salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. Salat is prescribed for believers to be performed on time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only He's slowing us down, He's saying, come back to your niche and rediscover your deen. Rediscover your deen, both in the concrete ibadat, abstract ibadat, salat, zakat, siyam. Look at this. All of this is happening in the season of Sha'ban and Ramadan and siyam and Umrah. Many people go Umrah for Ramadan. And you know what? There could be a possibility that until the last case of the COVID-19 is dealt with, that we may not be able to go for Hajj. Look at this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Probably. And my heart is bleeding when I say this, that Hajj has turned into religious tourism. There are people who think of Hajj as a chance to go and experience a 5-star hotel, and they insist on that kind of hotel, and that, you know, any difficulty out of the way, or, you know, will spoil their mood. And, you know, Hajj has become the arrangements, not what we perform. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in one season, may tell us, stop. There are people who go for, you know, Hajj, and they spend even, listen to this, about $60,000, $70,000 per person, when they could be, and they are doing it for the umpteenth time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, why? There are people, you know, who could be more in need of this $60,000, $70,000, especially if you're going with your wife. It's $140,000. Go and spend it on somebody who is needy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending us divine messages through this. He's saying, come back, sit down, reflect on these things, and do that which is right. Now here, all of a sudden, from Brother Jihad El-Kassem, Barakallah Feek, Jihad, you know, this is, you know, a hadith related to Aisha. You know, if we died naturally in these days, will we still get the ajr of shaheed? Can our bodies be washed? The answer is, you know, if we died naturally, and, you know, the funeral home as the first choice, as it is recommended for us, you know, will do the washing, and then this person is not a shaheed. No. Shaheed, you know, the person who died of chronic acute illness that couldn't be treated, and suffered a lot before dying. So, you know, I missed other questions, but here I would like to basically conclude, unless there are you know, other questions, you know, that I will see here. Remember that there are many ways to communicate with each other. I would like to remind you of the following. You know, please try to just summarize everything now. Please try to cut down as much as you can on the time you spend following news and numbers. Do not share everything that you receive unless it is 100% sure that you have no doubt that it is the right thing. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. This is a test of our faith. Allah is going to be with us. You know, if you are using the cause-effect relationship that we really need to follow by washing, by distancing, by being careful, you know, alhamdulillah, Allah will take care of us, inshallah. And if we are going to die because of this, then you know what? You know, تعددت الأسباب والموت واحد. Okay, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave many causes for death, but death is the same. Death is continuation of life into the hereafter. We are believers. We know that we have to go one time or another. Some people are going to leave as shaheed, others, you know, something, you know, some people say I don't know why they say that. And you know, this is, perhaps we can discuss that in more detail next time. There are so many muftis these days. There are people who are telling, no, this is not right. No, this is, yes, this should be this, this should be that. We should abstain from, you know, abstain from doing this. This is a question here. Please quickly let us know if 2 adults can do Jum'ah at home. The answer is no. You cannot do Jum'ah at home if you are 2 adults. There are 2 opinions. Choose one of them, and both of them have basis in Islamic fiqh. There are scholars, qualified scholars, who say that yes, you can perform Jumu'ah at home if you are 3 or more. Some people say 15, some people say 40, some, so you can. Some people say yes, you can. Others say no. If you are at home, home is not the place of Jumu'ah. And if you have a reason not to go to a masjid, and now we have a global reason not to go to the masjid, then you know what? We don't have to pray Jum'ah. It becomes Dhuhr Jama'ah. Dhuhr Jama'ah. So I was talking in summary about is it a punishment or is it a test? Okay, some people say, no, it's a punishment for what? How could you emphatically speak on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How could you? Who told us that this is a punishment? Who said that it's only a test? Who said that it could be either this or that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Let us not forget that even at the time of the Sahaba, those who were close to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were pandemics. There were awbiyah, there were diseases, there were, and many of the Abu Ubaidah Amir ibn al-Jarrah died in a pandemic. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to punish him? Let us not, I will talk in more detail, inshallah, next time. Are there any specific du'as that we can recite throughout the day for protection, inshallah? I want to mention this, and inshallah this will be recorded, and then we will have it on the YouTube channel of the Islamic Center, as well as on my own YouTube channel, Dr.Munir El-Kassem. You can check it out, and it's easy, inshallah. And the dua that I want you to repeat it as often as you can is تحصنت بذي العزة والجبروت واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت اصرف عنا الأذى يا الله اصرف عنا الأذى إنك على كل شيء قدير وبالإجابة جدير. Meaning that I have fortified myself, or you can say we are fortifying ourselves with the one who has the power and the ultimate ability, بذي العزة والجبروت واعتصمت, and I am finding refuge, واعتصمت برب الملكوت, and I'm finding refuge in the Lord God of all the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. وتوكلت, and I am putting my confidence and I am seeking the support of وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت. I'm seeking the support on the one who is ever living and never dies. Then you say, oh Allah, get the hardship away from me. You are most capable to achieve all good outcomes, Ya Allah. So this is a dua, inshallah, that we can repeat as often as we can. This is the last question I'm seeing here. There is Jazakallah khair, Brother Muhammad Qureshi. He is saying, thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. Time well spent. Jazakumullah khair. That now from my son-in-law, Ihab Habib, to everyone, he is saying, Jazakallah khair, Dr. Munir. May Allah reward you and everyone who organized this meeting. We look forward to more meetings, inshallah. And then from Dr. Jihad Hamid, who is saying thank you, from Bassam Samak, Alhamdulillah, let us thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But, the way we can really extend the benefit is to, inshallah, spread the word. Now, this live stream was supposed to be at 2 o'clock after Dhuhr. So next Sunday, if Allah wills, it will be after Dhuhr, inshallah, immediately at 2 o'clock. So today we had some technical difficulties. We couldn't do it. That's why we are doing it that late into the evening. Please tell everybody, we will share, like we did today, the link with everybody, and then you can share it with your groups and let everybody come forward. Let us really not stay in our cocoons and be afraid and say it's the end of the world. And many people, especially young people, they called me, they sent me, they said, Uncle Munir, is it true that people are saying that this is the end of life, this is the end of the world, this is Yawm al-Qiyamah, this is, something, not everybody is equipped to receive this kind of information. And by the way, even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they ask you, Ya Muhammad, concerning the hour that is the day of judgment, tell them, you know nothing about it. The knowledge thereof belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how could some people allow themselves, I don't want to even mention this, but I heard something audio statement, 3 minutes coming from a certain country saying that on Monday, tomorrow, there will be a dukhan coming from the sky and people have to stay at home and, it's the end of the world. And then, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-ali al-azim. They said it in 2012, they said it in 2000, they said it in 1997, they said it in 1993. How could we? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. We've been together for 65 minutes. I think, it is enough. I could stay with you a long, long time, but there are many of you who do not want to miss, but they have other things to do. So let us respect that. So I want to remind you that, inshallah, every second day I will have 6 to 7 minutes video message that will appear in the newsletter that the Islamic Center is producing with my messages and other important messages as well. Try to, these ones, I make them especially for young people, but they can benefit everybody else, okay? So try to use them. Try also to check Islamica podcast, which is after Maghrib, on Tuesday and Thursday. And also, in order for the London community to work together, no difference at all between Islamic Center or London Muslim Masjid or the Mile or the Taqwa or the North London Islamic Center or the Bosnian Islamic Center or the MAC Islamic Center or any place. There's no difference. So we agreed that the Jumu'ah Khatira, not khutbah, it is not a khutbah. Jumu'ah reminder will be through Islamica, fixed program at 1 o'clock. It's repeated on Friday at 4 o'clock as well. Check it out. If you want to have the culture of Jumu'ah, but not the Jumu'ah prayer, the culture of Jumu'ah at home, at 1 o'clock, be ready. Maybe I can suggest something on Jumu'ah. Start at 12 o'clock, make wudu, sit together, read Surah Al-Kahf or start learning parts of Surah Al-Kahf, or, you know, until 1 o'clock. Watch Islamica till 1:30. You know, sit together, make some dua until it is 1:36 now for adhan, for Salat al-Dhuhr. Pray Dhuhr in Jama'ah, then make dua together, then, you know, then go and do physical activity together. Try to maybe help in the kitchen to cook a meal together as a family, or start preparing for Ramadan to make that big, you know, bulletin, to do something together as a family, and enjoy it, inshallah. So that is Islamica. And also, you know, don't forget that on Sunday at 2 o'clock, you invite everybody to join in, inshallah, for questions and answers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.